I had been telling myself a story about Lord Aldric for 2 years. The story went, he is cold but not cruel. He is political but not dangerous. He sees me as a transaction, and transactions are concluded without violence. I had believed that story because it was easier than the alternative. In the corridor outside my room that morning, with his hand around my wrist, and his voice very quiet, and his eyes doing something I had never seen them do before, I understood that I had been telling myself a lie. He was there when I came back from breakfast, standing outside my door in the lower palace corridor, a thing he had never done. Lord Aldric existed in rooms that required you to come to him. The fact that he had come here told me something. The fact that he was standing completely still told me something else. His fingers closed around my wrist, not violent, not rushed. The grip of a man who had decided he was going to do this and was taking his time about it. We need to discuss your recent behavior. Let go of my wrist, I said. He did not. You have been spending time in the upper palace, in spaces that are not part of your work assignment. He paused. I have been patient, but patience has a boundary. Let go of my wrist, I said again. This time he did. He smoothed his coat. He looked at me the way he looked at contracts that required a second reading. I want you in my sitting room this evening, 6 o'clock. He turned and walked away. I stood in my corridor with my wrist held against my stomach and thought, I need to talk to Myra. Myra pulled the book off her own shelf. She had been keeping it since the beginning of all this. The bond protections are more extensive than I first described, she said. Under the Shifter Domestic Law Act, if the bond has progressed to mutual acknowledgement, she looked up. You've acknowledged it to each other. Yes. Then it legally qualifies as an active bond, and an active bond supersedes prior contractual claims on either party's person. The relocation clause, Elena, it is already unenforceable. Aldric just doesn't know it yet. I stared at her. He can't move me. Not legally. But he may be betting you don't know that. You need to tell Cale today. If Aldric invokes the contract before the bond status is documented, it creates a dispute process that could take months to resolve, months during which he could argue for temporary enforcement. I was already standing. The knock came 2 hours later. One knock, measured, not a guard's knock. He was standing in my corridor, without guards, without ceremony, in a simple dark coat. He looked at the corridor, at the lower ceilings, the older stone, then at me. May I come in? He asked. He had never asked before. He had always entered spaces with complete ownership. He was asking now because this was my space. Yes, I said. He stepped inside. The room was small around him in a way that his study and the library were not. His presence filled my small scribe's room differently than any other room I had seen him in. More present, more person. He looked around once, taking in the stacked documents, the marked books, the small portrait of my mother on the desk. Not invasive, just seeing. I pulled the contract from the wooden box under my bed. 2 years I had not looked at it. I handed it to him. He read it standing. Fast, when he reached the clause, his jaw tightened once, then released. He set it on my desk. Myra is correct, he said. He cannot enforce this. The bond's legal status supersedes 3 separate clauses, including the relocation clause. I will have documentation to you by morning. He picked up the contract to hand it back to me. I reached for it. Our fingers met in the middle. Neither of us moved. The contract hanging between us. His fingers. My fingers. the warmth in my chest going absolutely still, not absent. The opposite of absent. "Elena," he said, "you're not going anywhere." The documentation arrived by morning as he had promised, an official palace document with the seal that made Aldric's contract clause as effective as paper in rain. I read it at my desk in the early light, and then I found the second document folded inside the first. This one was not official. It was handwritten. It said, "When you are ready to speak about what comes next, come to the upper wing, not the study. The private rooms, I will be there." There was no signature. There didn't need to be. I felt him above me like a compass point, warm and steady and waiting. I had a decision to make. The first real choice offered to me in 3 years. I looked around my small, orderly room, the room I had kept precisely, because keeping it precisely made me feel like I still controlled something. And I thought, I am so tired of small rooms.